Forum.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Burby's 99.5 FM. Kaieteur Radio.
With your news at noon on Kaieteur Radio, I'm Kevin Smith. Justice Nareshwar Harnanan on Friday granted an injunction to stop the operation of U.S.-based company Schlumberger Guyana Inc.'s radioactive storage facility located at Lot 1 Area X Houston, East Bank, Demerara. On February 14, 2022, three environmental activists and residents who live nearby the facility, Vanda Radzik, Danuta Radzik, and Rafael Singh, filed a lawsuit at the Demerara High Court against the Environmental Protection Agency, the Environmental Assessment Board, and Schlumberger. At Friday's hearing, Justice Harnanan ruled that the EPA breached its statutory duties when it made the decision to waive the requirement of an environmental impact assessment to Schlumberger in relation to granting an environmental permit for the construction of the facility. In fact, the judge declared that EPA's decision to not conduct an environmental impact assessment into the effects of the construction of the facility was illegal, ultra vires, unreasonable, and irrational since it breached the Environmental Protection Act. And in other news, Chatham House, an independent policy institute headquartered in London, is encouraging new oil players like Guyana to invest quickly and heavily in beefing up their auditing capabilities. The international group, which provides Guyana and other new producers with advice, stressed that a robust monitoring system with strong reporting and accounting standards for oil companies' expenses is key to preventing significant revenue loss to the state. It said an efficient auditing and administrative body for the industry is a fundamental of good governance. Hence, its recommendation that all governments invest in building capacity. It said even from the early days of exploration, governments should already move to centralized geological data management. When discoveries are made, Chatham House said it is incumbent on new producers to allocate more resources to building capacity and auditing and monitoring operations. And in other news, the AFC has sounded an alarm against government removal of residency requirements for eligible voting at elections, calling the move a major blow to democracy and free and fair elections. Leader of the AFC, Kemraj Ramjatan, at the party's weekly press conference on Friday, said that the PPPC government has passed amendments to the Representation of the People's Act and National Registration Act that affect the use of house-to-house registration as a mechanism to ascertain voters' residency. And in other news, with the first anniversary since the passage of the Local Content Act in the National Assembly approaching, President of the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Timothy Tucker, on Friday night urged that the government of Guyana plug all the loopholes in the legislation. He reminded attendees, who included President Ervan Ali, that the Local Content Act is aimed at the retention of wealth in the country and not the extraction of wealth through rent-a-citizen, one of the loopholes being abused by foreign entities. Foreign companies have been taking advantage of the loopholes in the legislation by utilizing persons who have little or no connection to Guyana to obtain multi-billion-dollar benefits carved out for Guyanese in the law. The law mandates that in order for a joint venture to cash in on multi-million-dollar contracts in the oil and gas sector, they must first show that 51% of the shares are owned by Guyanese. However, some foreign investors have been quote-unquote renting citizens to meet the requirement stipulated by law. And in other news, Crime Chief Wendell Blanham on Friday said that investigators will make efforts to interview the suspect in State House's shooting once he has fully regained consciousness after surgery. The Nigerian man, 25-year-old Bethel Ekene Chimezi, was shot multiple times around 7 hours 30 on Thursday after he disarmed and wounded two members of the Presidential Guard stationed at the State House, the official residence of President Ervan Ali. And in other news, Chief Justice Roxanne George Wiltshire on Friday ruled in a decade-old Amerindian land rights case, stating that while the Akawayo and Arakuna people have rights to the land in dispute, their rights are not in exclusion to others. The indigenous people of the Upper Mazuruni district have long sought legal title for recognition of their rights to traditional and ancestral lands. The CJ's ruling has brought the curtains down on the 1998 case, which was before the Demerara High Court. The land dispute case was filed against the state by the Akawayo and Arakuna indigenous peoples, who were represented by Nigel Hughes. The state was represented by the Attorney General. And to wrap things up, Guyana and the European Union have signed an agreement to ensure the legal trade of timber to EU buyers on Friday at the UN Biodiversity Conference in Montreal, Canada. The signing of the agreement marks the end of a 10-year negotiation process. It consolidates Guyana's position as a front-runner in the protection, restoration, and sustainable management of forests. The agreement will give EU-based timber buyers assurance that timber products from Guyana are legal. It will help improve forest governance, tackle illegal logging, and promote trade in verified legal timber products. And that brings us to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.